So the biggest difference between living in Portland and Vancouver, Washington is probably going to be the tax differences. Well, I'm going to walk you through everything that there is to know about living in Portland Metro, which happens to include Vancouver, Washington. And we get so many questions down in the comments about the taxes, about the cost of living, how the city's broken up. And I know if you're watching this right now and you've never been to Portland or you're thinking about coming out, there is a lot to know. Well, this is going to be your ultimate guide of moving to Portland Metro. We're going to talk about the taxes. We're going to talk about the cost of living. We're going to talk about the pros and cons. I might even talk about some homeless stuff. But we're going to provide you guys with so much information that's provided by Nichecom. So in no way, shape, or form are we steering. We're just providing valuable content and information. So I'm going to go through an interactive presentation right here on the Vibe board, and I'm going to bring you guys along with me. The one thing I'd love for you guys to do is smash that like button. We are Portland's most premier relocation team and the original Living in Portland. And yes, we love being bugged. So if you're thinking about making a move out to Portland and you want to talk to us, there's only one thing you got to do. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Days, nights, weekends, we got your back on making a move. And please do not wait till you're out here to contact us. We get so many people flying into Portland, then they'll call us and say, hey, guess what? We're here. And we need to build you guys a plan. And there's a lot of information and things we can do to help you prepare for that trip out to Portland. So like I said, we're going to talk to you guys today about 3 specific things. We're going to talk about the cost of living, maps and systems, and the rankings. So without further ado, let's get into this thing. Okay, very, very simple. I'm going to give you guys a couple bases of reference points. This right here is the Columbia River. This separates Oregon, which is down here, which is where Portland is, from Washington, which is up here, Vancouver. So I'll draw an arrow. Washington, Oregon. Now, let's talk about the biggest differences. Besides one being in the north and one being in the south, we know someone was thinking that, is in Washington, you have no state income tax. So up here, no state income tax. Down here, you have state income tax to the tune of 4.75 to 9.9%. That is absolutely insane. And here's the thing, Oregon is on a graduated system. So let's just say you're making 125, you got to add 1% to your state income tax. If you're making 400K, you got to add 3%, which is absolutely absurd. So yes, if you're making 400,000 or above, you're going to be paying an estimated 14% more than as if you lived up here in Washington. That's why a lot of people love to live up here. Now, let's talk about sales tax, because in Washington, you have no state income tax, but in Washington, you have sales tax. So the state has a base number of 6.5%, and then each city can add whatever they impose. Now in Clark County, which is all of this, it's 2.1%. So down here in Clark County, it's 8.6% sales tax on most things. Obviously there's things that they don't charge sales tax on, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. In Oregon, no sales tax. So the give and take is no state income tax in Washington with the sales tax. In Oregon, there is a state income tax, but no sales tax. So what does that look like? Let's just say, for example, you made $100,000, and in Washington, you pay 0 in income tax. In Oregon, you make $100,000, you're gonna pay probably upward towards that 9.9, so you're gonna pay $9,900 in state income tax on $100,000. So to make up $9,900 at 8.6%, sales tax, you have to spend over $100,000 in goods to break the bank, right? So what do a lot of people do? This is what a lot of people do, is they actually live up here in Washington, and then they drive across the border down here to buy their groceries. And you know what? There's a Costco right here. And that's where everyone from Washington comes down to buy their goods when they have to make big purchases because they don't want to pay that sales tax. The other thing is property taxes. How do property taxes stack up in Oregon versus Washington? 0.84% in Washington on average versus 0.99% on average. And in Oregon, it's going to vary by county. So the good news is that Washington is on a levied tax system. Now down in Oregon, it's 0.99% on average. So the reality is, depending on where you live, it's probably most likely going to be between the 0.90% up to the 1.05%. 0.99% was actually just an average for the entire city. Now, if you live in Multnomah County, which is Portland proper, Gresham and Troutdale, we'll talk about that. They actually have Multnomah County tax. They have a homeless tax. They also have a transit tax. So every time we sell a house in Multnomah County, we have to pay an additional tax per the money that we actually get. So if you're living in Portland or Multnomah County specifically, you're not only paying, 13.9% on your income tax, you're also going to pay the Multnomah County tax, which they have it for transit, which is funny because they got rid of the transit police, and you're going to have homeless tax. So that's the pros and cons of living in Oregon versus Washington when it comes to taxes. I want you to drop a comment down in the comment box right now, even if you have to hit pause, and tell me which part of the river would you rather live on. Would you rather live in the north side up here in Washington with no state income tax but with a sales tax? Or would you rather live down here in Oregon paying a state income tax with no sales tax? Drop your comments down in the box right now as we move on to the next thing. So the Portland Metro is made up of 4 counties: Clark County, Clackamas County, Washington County, and Multnomah County. So Clark County is up here. It's everything up here in this Vancouver, Washington, Camas, Salmon Creek, Ridgefield, La Center. All of this is Clark County, okay? Now, when you talk about Clackamas County, we'll talk about that here in a second. But first, let's talk about Multnomah County. So Multnomah County is all of this up here, comes down here, drops down here. It's about like that. So Multnomah County here, that houses Portland, Gresham, Troutdale. Then let's talk about Clackamas County. Clackamas County runs down here, comes out here, bloop, and all the way out here. So all of this out here, Clackamas County. So you're talking Milwaukee, Lake Oswego, Clackamas, Oregon City, Damascus, Happy Valley, Boring, Eagle Creek, so on and so forth. The other thing I didn't mention is in Clark County up here, you'll see Orchards, Mill Plain, Hazeldale. That's all Vancouver. That's not separate information. And then you have all the way over here, Washington County, which is your Hillsboroughs, Aloha, Beaverton, Tigard, Tualatin, Sherwood, Newburgh. Okay? So most people know, and then you'll see this out here. This is actually a place called Columbia County, but it's not part of the Portland Metro. Portland Metro is 4 counties. And if you're talking about bridges, when you're talking about driving from Vancouver down to Washington or Vancouver down to Portland, there's 2 ways in. Either you have the 205 or you have the I-5, which is this right here. So there's 2 bridges. There's the I-5 bridge right here, and there's a 205 bridge right here. The 205 bridge is 8 lanes. The I-5 bridge is 4 lanes. So traffic flowing here, super, super smooth. Traffic flowing here, not smooth. I-5 runs from Canada down to California or Mexico. So this has got a ton of traffic. Everyone typically drives down the I-5 into downtown Portland because that's where people work. However, a lot of people will drive down the 205 and then come across I-84 right here. I-84 runs all the way along the Columbia River, which separates obviously Oregon and Washington on the Oregon side. And then the SR-14 runs east and west on the Washington side. And then to connect I-5 and 205 up here in Washington is the 500 here. Now, the one thing that I'll say is when you're talking about Vancouver and the real estate industry up here, is this is how it's typically broken down. So I'll draw this thing that looks like an A. So what you'll say is if you're looking over here into Camas, Washougal, on this side, this is east of 205. If you're looking on this side, this is west of I-5. And then you have right here in between the I-5 and the 205, but south of the 500, right? So that's typically how you break it up. Right here, this is the Port of Washington, or Port of Vancouver. This is a no-go zone, in my opinion. It's a lot of industrial. There is some really, really cheap real estate down in here, but everyone that goes up there says that they don't want to live there because they just don't like it. 50% of our business is done in the Vancouver market, and most of our clients buy in Camas, Ridgefield, and then up in here. So there's also an amazing place right here called Fisher's Landing. Right here, this is the Port of Portland. When you talk about ports, that's a no-go zone too. There's not very many housing down there. It's very, very industrial and not many people live there. Unfortunately, if you really wanted to know where the homeless situations are happening at very concentrated, this right here is the Portland airport. So this right here is called Jansen Beach. There's a lot of homeless there, and there's a lot of homeless out here in this other area called Lentz. I'd say it's probably right in here. And then down here along the river, another industrial area, there's another homeless camp. And then downtown in Chinatown, there's another spot. So these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 are very concentrated homeless areas. So when you come to town, most people get in their car and they drive, and then they'll see like there's like some RVs and stuff along the freeway here. And then down here, there's this road, the 30, homeless stuff down here, RVs and whatnot. So it's like when you leave the airport, you kind of see the worst of the worst, right? But we'll make sure to help you out when you come to town to, if you want to see it, we'll show it to you. But if you don't want to see it, we'll make sure to show you how to stay clear. So let's talk about Clark County. So Clark County is up in Washington, and it's this red dot line all the way around. And Clark County consists of Vancouver, Camas, Washougal, and Ridgefield. Those are the 4 main cities that our clients talk about all the time. Like I mentioned before, Salmon Creek, Hazeldale, Five Corners Orchards, Brush Prairie, Battleground, those are all part Mill Plain, all part of Vancouver. Now, I've already mentioned there's another spot right in here called Fisher's Landing. That's one of the hottest spots a lot of our clients love to buy. And then Washougal, which isn't showing up on the map, is actually right here. You can see right here, it shows the average house price, and this is for the last 6 months. So it's all relative. Things could change in the future. Right here, you see the population. You can see Vancouver's at 188, Camas is at 25, 16,000 people in Washougal, and then 10,000 in Ridgefield. This is their overall rating on Niche.com. So they take all of the categories and give it an average rating. Actually, Camas is the only city up there in Washington that scored in the A category for overall. They're an A- in public schools. Housing's a B, diversity is a B+, and then is it good for families got an A-. So when you look at the housing for the entire Portland Metro, the highest score that we found was a B. So Camas actually scored the highest for housing, which means affordability and inventory levels, right? And there's a bunch of other things that you can go on to Niche.com and look at the differences. But you'll also see the average house price in Camas is $811,000. So Vancouver, like I said, is broken up into so many different categories. Depending where you're at is dependent on this. So there's places where you can buy a little bit less expensive, places that you can buy more expensive. But the Portland Metro as a whole, average sales price was in the mid 600s. So you have to think, if you're moving to Vancouver, it's a little bit less than the average price point of the Portland Metro. Then you have Washougal at 663 and Ridgefield at 706. Ridgefield, people love living up there because of the school rating there. Like I said, you might want to look into how they rank the schools and why they're rated. I'll tell you what, there's some places where they talk about the rating being based on how much money they spend per kid, but they have the highest test scores. So it's going to be very, very different based on what they're actually ranking the ratings on. As you can see in Vancouver, it's very, very diverse at that A-. Everything else falls below the A category. But it really depends on what you're looking for and what you're looking to get done with your home purchase. Down here along the river, that's the South Waterfront in Vancouver. That's actually where all the new condos are being built, all of the restaurants, and people really love getting in down there. I love going down there myself. And then right here is Esther Shore State Park, which is where they do the farmers markets on the weekends, and it's just a great place to be. So this is Clark County up in Washington. Now let's talk about Clackamas County, transition in Clackamas County. Myself, this is where I was born and raised, right here in Oregon City. You can see how our lines go all the way like this, like I showed you guys before. And believe it or not, Lake Oswego as well actually integrates into Multnomah County and Washington County right here on this edge. So Lake Oswego is primarily in Clackamas County, but it does touch into Multnomah County and Washington County in certain points. Now, some of the other cities out here in Clackamas County that are very, very popular is Happy Valley, Clackamas, Wilsonville, Canby, and Milwaukee. So the thing I love about Clackamas County is it's very big. Even out here you have Mount Hood, which is people love to go skiing. To drive from here to here is only about an hour away. So if you live down in any of these, metro cities, you can take a trip out to Mount Hood, go camping, go skiing, whatever. Very, very quick, very, very easy to get up there. But the thing I love about Clackamas County, if you notice here, you have 4 of the cities that all rank overall A's. Now, if you look at the schooling, you got the same 4 cities rank in the A's with schools. And then good for families, you actually have 2, 4. So you have the same 4. So in Clackamas County, the one thing that we always hear every single person call us and talk about are these 3 cities primarily: Happy Valley, Lake Oswego, and West Linn. Not many people ever talk about Wilsonville. So in my opinion, Wilsonville is a sneaky town, because if you look at the average, like Lake Oswego, 1.2 million, Happy Valley, 739,000 average price point. And then you have West Linn, 936. You have Wilsonville at 767. Population size is really, really small too. They're only at 25,000 people. So the thing about Wilsonville is you got this river that runs right here. That's the Willamette River. And right here is one of the most famous 55 plus communities, or active living communities, called Charbonneau. You can go golfing. They got their own store, all sorts of things. So if you're moving to Portland and you have someone that that's looking to move into a 55 plus community, that's it. Also out here in King City, you also have another one. But the main road that runs here is I-5. That runs down through Wilsonville. And then the 205 runs out here. This road here that runs along out to Damascus and Oregon is called 224. And then you have all these Highway 40 here. And this is 99W, so, or 99E. 99E runs all the way down to Canby. So my grandparents actually lived out in Canby when I was growing up. So they lived here in their final years, but out here a little bit further was a town called Malino where they had a farm. This is where I lived till I was 22. Then I moved out to Hillsboro. Then I moved to downtown. Then I moved back out to Tigard. Then I moved back downtown, so on and so forth. So I've pretty much been all over the city and can tell you what it's like to live in all the separate areas. But the thing about Lake Oswego, most of our clients call, they want to live there. The reason that they love it is because it's right by downtown Portland. It's a quick jaunt around, right down the highway, Highway 43. I think I said 40 earlier, it's Highway 43. And actually right here, there's a place called unincorporated Multnomah County, so they have a really good tax benefits, but the housing is super expensive. At $1.2 million average price point, you got houses that are in the freaking, on the lake, that are up into the $5, $10 million, $20 million range. But the thing that you have to be careful of is right here in Lake Oswego, if you want your kids to go to Lake Oswego schools specifically, if you're north of this line, and it's not specific, is you're gonna go to Lake Oswego schools. If you're below this line, you're going to be going to Lake Ridge. So Lake Ridge and Lake Oswego are both in the Lake Oswego systems. They both are great, but that's why you got to reach out. So that way you don't buy thinking that you're going to be in Lake Oswego, you end up in Lake Ridge. So if you are thinking about making that move, all you got to do is give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. We are the #1 relocation in Portland, Oregon. And this is what we do, is we talk about what is very important to you, how many people are moving out, what's your time frame, whether you're 1 month, 1 year, or 5 years out. We'd love to absolutely hear from you. So moving along into Washington County, because remember, Clark County, Clackamas County, Washington County, and Multnomah County are the 4 counties that make up the Portland Metro, which is why we're going through all of these. This here is Washington County. So you got all these zigzags. We'll get as close as we can. So you have Aloha, Beaverton, Hillsboro, Sherwood, Tigard, and Tualatin. One last one in here that is in Washington County. It's the only Portland city that's in Washington County is Southwest Portland. So right in there. So you have like Raleigh Hills, Garden Home, so on and so forth. A lot of places in Southwest Portland inside of Washington County. So as you know, what is out in Beaverton, Hillsboro, and Aloha that makes it so popular? Well, you have Nike, you have Intel, Tektronix, and so on and so forth. Tons of things. So what you have here is you have this road out here called the 8, which is TV Highway, that goes like this, and it turns into Cornell and loops back around, comes over here, and it crosses the freeway back into Portland. So along this, you have Nike that's like down here. Then you have Intel. Tektronix is out here too. So this is like Silicon Forest right here, all the way through here. I'll change my pen color. So this is like really where all the jobs in manufacturing is. So when people were wondering, like when Portland went up in smoke during the riots, like why didn't the housing market crash? Why not? And like people have heard of jobs going away and whatnot, but realistically, all the jobs are out here. This is where a majority of the industries are. So tons of our clients buy in Hillsboro, Beaverton, Tualatin, Tigard, and Sherwood. I'd say like these 5 here are some of the, I'd say 50% of our sales come from up here, which is Camas, Vancouver, and Ridgefield. And then down here in Portland Metro, I'd say 40% of our sales are actually in these 5 cities. And Sherwood, if you look on the list here, 642 average price point, it's removed out from the city. So you'd have to take, I-5 down, and then most people come in either 210. People come down this, which is 99W, and this over here is 99E. So you have 99W, 99E, I-5 south. So that's how people come into Sherwood. And to connect Highway 26 to I-5 here, you have this road called 217. So off 217, you can get into Beaverton, you get into Tigard, you got Shoals Ferry Road here. Everyone talks about Mountainside High School and Progress Ridge. That sits up in here. But off 26, which is the most traveled highway in Oregon, you get off into Beaverton, Hillsboro, so on and so forth. There's lots of exits off of that. All of that leaks in to downtown Portland. So if you're coming to downtown Portland, you're going to hit right here. This is this tunnel. And this area right here gets super, super gnarly. Tons of traffic congestion right here in the 26 corridor. And then right here is a little inner loop called the 405 that gets you up onto I-5 North and I-5 South if you're coming off the 26, which is why this whole area gets super congested. But if you're looking out here, you'll see a low on average price point, $498, $612 for Beaverton, $600 for Hillsboro, Southwest Portland, $648, Sherwood, $642, Tualatin, $677. And then overall ratings, you had Beaverton with an A-, Sherwood and Tualatin with both in the A- range. Public schools, you had Beaverton, Sherwood and Tualatin all in the A's. Diversity, lots of A's. The west side, because of all of the tech industry jobs and all the diversification, scores extremely high. And then good for families, you're seeing Beaverton, Sherwood and Tualatin all score in the A's. So that is what we call Washington County. And this right here is the Willamette River. So everything on this side of the Willamette River is called the west side. Everything on this side is what we call the east side. Okay, last county, Multnomah County. You got Gresham, you got Troutdale, and of course you have Portland. So Portland, obviously, is a very, very big area, and it's actually broken up into 6 sections, which is northeast, southeast, northwest, NOPO, SOPO, and southwest Portland. Obviously, southwest Portland was back in Washington County, so these are your Washington County or your Multnomah County housing. So you can see Portland is by far the biggest city with 647,000 people. It's actually overall ranking as an A-, and both Portland and Gresham score A's in diversity, and so does Troutdale. People always ask us a lot about Gresham, and the reality is I think we've sold 1 house in Gresham out of 400. We just don't get a lot of people asking us about Gresham, but it's right here. It's got 114,000 people. Overall, it ranks as a C+. School systems are a C. Housing is low, like everyone else. And then is it good for families? It says it's a C+. Gresham is very, very dense. It's got a lot of just gridded streets. It's got the Max line that runs through out there. And it's probably one of the most affordable places to live in the Portland Metro, next to Southeast Portland, which is shown up here on our map at $488,000. But you can see it's out here. It's a little bit further on the edge of the city. So I actually have family that live out here, and they absolutely love it. Now I'm going to move along into Portland, because Portland sections alone can be very, very complicated, and I want to make sure that you fully understand them. So if you look at the red dots here, the red dots actually represent Portland proper, okay? So you're going to see all these zigzaggy lines. Portland gets, everybody had their battles in the day back over and whatnot. Like I said before, this is the Portland International Airport. So when you come into Portland, you're going to land right here. Most people, when they come out of here, there's only one way out. Unless you go through some back roads, you're going to come out and you're going to hit the 205 right here. You're either going to go north into Vancouver and head out to Camas. You might go over to Vancouver on the 14, or you're going to go north and you're going to go hit Ridgefield and whatnot. But if you're coming down here, let's just talk about Portland and keep it Portland. I already said before, this right here is the entire port of Portland, so that's all industrial. There's some housing, obviously, on the outskirts. The first section I don't want to talk about is NOPO. So right here you have I-5 that comes in like this, and then right here is 99E. This runs all the way down to Oregon City and Canby. Now this is called, right here, it's called MLK, and right in here is Vancouver Street. So Vancouver Street is going to separate North Portland on this side from Northeast Portland on that side. So NOPO is going to be this whole area right here. Okay? So everything in here is North Portland. You got St. John's, and you see it says North Portland right here. Over here on this side, change the color, you have what they call Northeast Portland. So this road right here is I-84. We've already talked about that. That's what connects 205 down to the down Portland. You can get onto I-5 and whatnot. But right here is what they call Burnside Road. So Burnside runs all the way out to Gresham and connects up into 26 right here. This right here is the dividing line between the north and the south parts of Portland. And the Willamette River right here, let's change the color. The river is what separates the east and the west. Okay? So if you're on the north side of Burnside, but on the east side of the river, Northeast Portland, right here. If you're on the south side and the east side of the river, you're in Southeast Portland. Now, if you're on the west side of the river, on the south side, you're in Southwest Portland. And if you're on the north side, on the west side, you're in Northwest Portland. Very simple. Now, Portland recently integrated a new section with all the addresses that started with 0. So right here, along the Willamette River, down South 43, right into this area here is a new section called South Portland. Okay? So that's actually our 6th section. So let's clear the map and show you guys quickly with the pen. This isn't 100% accurate, but it's very close. So you have NOPO. You got Northeast. You got Southeast. You got South. You got Southwest. And you have Northwest Portland, okay? So those are the 6 sections of Portland. So if anyone asks, what are the 6 sections of Portland? You can point them right here. Hopefully that makes sense for you moving forward. So in conclusion, if you go to Niche.com, there's 4 cities in the entire metro that have A ratings on 4 things. Overall, public schools, diversity, and good for families. That's Beaverton, Happy Valley, Tualatin, and Wilsonville. I would say 50% of our audience calls talking about those 4 specific areas. However, if you're talking about the remainder, they're also bringing up Camas, Vancouver, Ridgefield, Hillsborough, Lake Oswego, Sherwood. Those are the 10 cities in the Portland metro that most of our clients are calling to discuss. So if you're looking for one great slide to actually take a picture of, this is the one that you want, because right here, I actually took the time to build a little spreadsheet. It's got all of your cities, it's got your average price point, the population, the overall score, your public school score, housing score, diversity score, and whether or not it's good for families. Niche.com actually has a few other grades that they give out to specific things, but overall, these are the ones. And like I said before, this right here is going to be your Washington. This down here is your Oregon. And then you got your dividing line. You got your west side and your east side. Okay, take a picture and tell me right now down in the comments, what city are you most interested in and where are you relocating from? Now shifting gears, we went through this beautiful map video and I just want to make sure that we checked off on all these things. So did we talk about traffic? Yes. Did we talk about freeways? Yes. Did we talk about the airport, travel times, bridges, tolls? We did not talk about tolls. The good news is there are no tolls here on these bridges. And there's about 10 bridges that go through right here and even one down here. And guess what? There are no tolls. There's absolutely no tolls in Oregon. Now there is something that you should all know. It's called the Max Line and it's the electronic train. Now the electric train goes all the way from up here, which comes all the way down here and runs all the way to Milwaukee. They're talking about bringing it all the way down here to Oregon City. And then it goes all the way out to Gresham and it goes all the way out to Hillsborough and back in. They are going to be extending it down here to I-5 and into Tigard. It just hasn't happened yet. So right now, this is basically what your Max Line looks like. There is a trolley as well. The trolley is actually in downtown Portland and runs on a loop, and it's free. Portland has an amazing mass transit system. If I drew the maps, there is buses all over this city. You can't go anywhere without seeing a bus in Portland, okay? They do have an amazing rideshare and Uber system. It's super bike-friendly city, and you can walk pretty much anywhere in the city. Now, the most walkable parts of the city are probably gonna be right here in this inner loop, okay? So, how do you make PDX a reality? You have to give us a call, then we're gonna schedule a Zoom call with you, then we're gonna set you up on a custom home search, and then guess what? You're gonna get your keys. There's only one more thing after you take all those specific steps. So after you get your keys, there's one more thing you gotta do, and that is move. The good news is we have one trick left in our hat, and that is we have developed a special relationship with one of the world's leading moving companies where we can have you and the moving company on a digital conference where they can walk through your house on their app and video conference. And all you have to do is go like this and you videotape all the stuff in your house. It goes into an app and it spits out a quote. All of their moves are fully insured. So anything that gets broken, anything like if the floors get scuffed, anything whatsoever, they have you covered through and through. Now, the other thing is if you're relocating and your stuff needs to go into storage because maybe you sell your house and you don't have the house purchased yet, they can store all of your stuff securely. Yes, this is why reaching out in advance is so important. We have all of the steps figured out because we are Portland's #1 relocation team where we have moved hundreds of families, and you can go to google.com and check out our 5-star reviews and see what every single person in the past has had to say about us. But adding this moving company to our arsenal has made things so much better for our consumers. So after you reach out, give us a call and set up that Zoom call, you're going to be meeting with none other than Heather Listy, aka Mama Bear, and Addie Net, aka our money guy. 90% of our conversations when people call typically isn't even about where they're going to go. It's about building a customized plan to what they're going to do if they are coming out here to do a tour visit. We'll set you up a what we call self-guided tour where we tell you exactly where you need to go based on what you're looking to get accomplished. Also, the thing is a lot of people are moving out here for jobs. So there are special steps that we have to take and make sure they're in place. So that way you don't jeopardize your situation when it comes to buying a house. Now, most of our clients have to sell a house where they're coming from. So that way they can buy a house in Portland. Now, I know you see my handwriting and you think I'm a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but I have handwriting equally as good.
I'm not a doctor.
But yeah.
Handwriting's a match.
So let's say your house is going to close on May 31st and you are very nervous about moving to Portland because you're like, I'm going to be homeless on this day. Now, we work with agents all around the country that we have partnerships with, and we have a special thing that we like to do called a simultaneous close. That means that if you closed on this house on May 31st, we could close on your house in Portland in a perfect world on May 31st, but no later than June 1st. So that way you could move right in without missing a beat. However, you're like, how would I do that with only one day? Here's what we also like to do. We also like you, and we help agents do this all across the country. So you keep possession in your past house, the one you're selling, until June 30th. So 30 days post occupancy on your house. So you have 30 days to get up here to Portland. The good news is when you buy your house and you close on June 1st, you probably won't have a mortgage until August 1st. So now you have 30 days. If you moved in on July 1st, you're not gonna have a mortgage until August 1st. How cool is that? And that is one of the reasons why it's so important for you to reach out in advance. So that way we can build a game plan. And guess what? That game plan is not set in stone. We are very, very adaptive to whatever comes our way. We have people reach out to us. They're like, hey, I'm moving there in 2 weeks. Can you help us find a house? We have people that reach out. They say, I'm moving there in 2 months, 2 years. It doesn't matter. Every single situation is unique. And 90% of everyone's situations are very, very similar. It's just that outer edge, that last 10% where things are very unique. But if we can set up a game plan to help make your move and your transition as seamless as possible, that is when we are extremely happy and feel satisfied that we were able to make a customer like you make that move across the country or even down the road. So with that, I want to say thank you, and I hope you have a fantastic year. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your feedback, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.